Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining us today for our first Big Time product tour. We are live today joining you from our home offices, and I hope you guys are all staying well and healthy during this crazy time. And we really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come join us for an hour and hear a little bit more about Big Time. My name is Trilby Lawless, and I'm on our marketing team here at Big Time. And also joining me is the host of our show today. It is Ty from our sales team, and he's going to be the one walking you through your demo. We are doing a live Q&A at the end, so if you have any questions about Big Time or anything in general, please submit those into the questions box below. And we have Al also behind the scenes who will do his best to answer them throughout, and then any of the good ones for the group or anything really big we'll get to live at the end as well. So that's really it. I hope you guys enjoy. We'll also be sending out a recording at the end if you want to share it with the rest of your team. And with that, Ty, I'll hand it over to you and I'll join you guys back for the Q&A.
Well, thank you, Trilby. And hello from Chicago, from my home office to yours as well. Al is in Chicago with me, but not in my home office with me as well. And, want to carry along that sentiment of thank you, as we've all had some crazy fluctuating schedules and circumstances the last couple of weeks. Really appreciate everyone taking a moment to join us, be able to prioritize the needs of the business, and take a moment to spend with myself, Trilby, and Al, and let us introduce you to Big Time and how we can help you work and manage your team from afar. So when we go through this today, do want to hit on those lines of, with the current shift to remote working, what we can do to help provide remote management wise. When we walk through the software today, I want to keep to the agenda on your screen now, welcoming you to Big Time and doing some introductions, going through project setup, what it's like to help facilitate that project kickoff, and then manage through delivery. So by that, we're going to be adding a project, setting budgets, due dates, making assignments, and then being able to track against those and see that through to complete. Around resourcing, we'll be taking a look at how we can start to check our current pool of resources, see who has availability work on projects coming up, who has bench time, when our firm has the capacity to pick up new projects, and then on utilization and performance. Time and expense entry, of course, but as we have seen all of these shifts, want to take a look at how Big Time can help put in place some really great practices to better monitor what's being done and take that time and expense entry through to a review and approval process. From that, the critical moment is invoicing. Once the work is done, how are we going to get this onto an invoice, make sure it looks the way our client is asking, because it is never the same, get that both out to the client and then into our accounting solution, and be able to help speed up that process and get the cash coming in a little bit faster. And then to wrap up, as always, we'll be taking a look at the report center in Big Time. Our approach to reporting, some canned reports you get out of the box with Big Time, some dashboards for easy visualization, and then the ability for you to create, customize, and edit, and truly make those your own. So after the product tour, going to be turning this back to Trilby in Atlanta. She'll be fielding any questions. Please take a moment, submit those during the call. Al will be here to answer what he can in the moment and give some live feedback, but we'll also open it up to you and do a brief Q&A. Trilby reading those questions on your behalf, and then myself being able to go through and help best answer those with the software. So in just a moment, while I learn to familiarize myself with managing on one screen, one of the biggest adjustments from working in office to working at home, flip this over to our Big Time home screen and introduce you to Big Time. Certainly hope you can see the Big Time home screen. Trilby, Al, if you want to hit me up on Slack and maybe just confirm that we have the right screen here, would certainly appreciate that. All right, so what we're looking at when we log into Big Time is an overhead view of everything in the firm. Now, this account is my personal firm, Bigtime Software Demo. We're logged in as myself, and I am the administrator of this account. So that's why I'm going to have the visibility and access to everything in Bigtime. The, again, overhead view, the last time I have run a sync with my accounting solution, which for today's call is going to be QuickBooks Desktop. Up at the top, you'll notice that I have the ability to track time and expenses, generate invoices, push and pull to and from my QuickBooks file, run reports, and then manage my company. This view here is limited to the admin in my account, but do want to point out before we jump in, we understand the need to keep sensitive information from certain folks, but also that ability to empower project managers to better work remotely and have a bit more control over these projects from the home, from the field, or wherever they may be. So with Bigtime, you're able to come in and customize all of your user rights in Bigtime. So by that, I mean you're able to log in as yourself, the admin, maybe have a general end user whose responsibility is simply to get in and track time from the login, from the mobile app, but being able to limit the visibility that they have and then create any group in between those. The easiest example here is a project manager. You know, maybe they log into your Bigtime account. They don't necessarily have rate and cost information at their hands, but they do have the ability to look at their assigned projects, review and approve time from those projects, and receive updates and notifications on the status of how we're progressing budgets, be that a fee or hourly burn. So you're able to, for each firm, customize the user right logins to make sure you're always in control of who can log into your Bigtime account, and then make sure you're in control of what they can and can't have access to once they're in. So today, I want to go straight to our project list. I did a little bit of prep for this and quickly added a project. We're going to be going through with an account connected to QuickBooks today. Not necessary that you have QuickBooks to use Bigtime. We can hit on other integrations or no integrations if we need to. But I myself am a QuickBooks Desktop user, so that will be our direct line of communication to an accounting solution today. And with those integrations, great to point out here that there's no manual re-entry of that data. And by that, I mean any customer or job or client and project, whatever the internal language may be, whatever you have in that accounting solution, when you set up your sync, will import directly into your Bigtime account. You know, it's critical that we reduce the entry points and the touch points on this to, you know, simplify, streamline, and make sure that your data is going to remain accurate. So here we have a full display of everything in our firm. You can scroll down. I'm a big fan of the smart search here. Any part of that client name, project name, or project ID will take you to a project. To add a new project, you're going to hit this Add Project button, which makes sense. To add a client, add a project, or create both at the same time. However, we are going to be using this March 2020 webinar project that I built out just before the call. So I gave that a add, and when we open it up, we're going to see the data. Oh, and I may be having some audio issues, so give me a quick notification if I'm cutting in or out. But on this project dashboard, the first thing a large box that says, hey, this isn't in QuickBooks. Do you want to add it to QuickBooks? We do want to do that, but going back to that single point and single point of data entry, would always advise that we come in here to your contact info tab and grab all of that client information, the address, the phone number, any email addresses. Over here on the side, you'll be able to add contacts to this. And when you're adding contacts, add multiple contacts to each client. You can distinguish between the type of contact or the role that they would play in custom fields here. and then default roles that they would play. So maybe we need to send an invoice out to direct contact at the client, but for project management and deliverable purposes, we need to track another contact over there on that client side. And hit save, come right back to our project dashboard. And at this point, we're going to be ready to move this to our accounting solution. So this is a really great example. The account that I'm connected to, this QuickBooks file, is in Atlanta with Trilby. She is my administrator of the QB file. But from here in Chicago, I'm able to come in and add this to that file. We're always going to double check, make sure that we do truly want to make a change or shift to that QuickBooks file. This will tie back into those user rights and permission settings so that you're in control of what data is going to be communicated to and from that accounting solution. We hit export. And then if it's QuickBooks Online, it's direct cloud to cloud. If it's desktop, you'll have a sync agent installed. That will update automatically in the background, or you always have the ability to go in and manually do a quick update. And when that's done, we'll see this customer job link shift from waiting to sync to showing what that direct connection is in that QuickBooks file. So I'm going to let this sit. I believe it's set to update every 4 minutes on this account. And then towards the end of the call, we'll be able to come in and do a quick confirmation of what's been pushed over and even pull in some payment data. Now, accounting integration aside, we want to start building this project out in Bigtime as we need to track against it and report on in the end. So the first drop down here, to get us thinking about some later stage reports, we'll hit on this type field. With these drop downs in Bigtime, it's a quick way to customize this account that's easily done by you and your team. No development work needed to make these changes. These orange drop downs let you customize the values underneath with just a click so that you're able to start putting some initial project groupings on. And let's say we're going to run a cost and profit report at the end of Q1. And then we want to segment that down and break it out by the types of projects that we were working on. You know, this can do one of a few things. The go-to examples that typically default to in calls with firms like all of you on here would be helping us better understand if what we were bidding was truly accurate. You know, if we came out, side of that cost and profit analysis. The other is a great way to help us identify what types of projects or industries or sectors that we should be targeting as we move forward into Q2, Q3, and Q4. So great way to put those initial filters on at a high level on the project, and then call back to those through some of our quarterly or yearly reporting. Beyond this, you'll see that I've kicked this off in a bidding or proposal stage, which is where we'll start today. We'll flip that into active once we have a better idea of who's available to work on this. And down below, notes, deposit amounts, and then the ability to create and add custom fields. If there are any other fields you would need for reports that aren't here, we'll let you add those yourselves. Now, we'll work left to right. Oh, thank you, Bigtime. I do need to save those changes. We'll work left to right across these fields. And Team tab here is going to let you quickly identify who's working on this project, what their roles will be, and in this case, identify that project manager who, in my account, is going to be Kara for this project. Now, if you know who's going to work on this, go ahead and add that team. You know, a great way down below, you see that staff teams. If you have standard groups or teams of people, add those in. And then it's a simple checkbox rather than the adding line by line. The other scenario that we'll cover today is if we don't know who's going to be working on this project. If this is in a bidding or proposal stage, maybe we haven't had the chance to identify who should fill those roles, but we do have an idea of the scope of the need that we'll have. So in that case, we'd be able to come to our rates tab and default to billing rates by staff if we can. But in this case, what I want to do is use our custom rate table. So what this will allow you to do is project to project, manage any variable bill rate that might come up based off of that individual project scope. When we talk bill rates in Bigtime, our primary default is going to be associated to your staff member. your rate A, B, C, D, E. We can set up to 5 as a default on that. So if you can, by all means, set the primary and let that be the default. But we also understand that project to project, these rates are going to vary. This custom billing rate table will let you identify that with the staff member, an activity, a task, or a phase, or any combination of those. Now, today in this bidding or proposal stage, I don't know whose bill rate might change, but I know that for this project, I have a PM who I'm going to bill out at 175, and I have a consultant that I'm going to bill out at 150. When we shift over here to the Phases tab, now, quick to point out, I'm calling this phase. You may call this task. You may call this work breakdown structure. The language in Bigtime, you're able to make a quick edit through the lexicon so that if you don't say phases, we don't need you to say phases. We want to make sure that we can quickly adapt the language of your Bigtime account to match the language of your firm. Today, we'll roll with phase. And for this, I went with a very standard design, develop, test, deploy, thinking in more of a maybe IT consulting space for a standard project deliverable. I always pause here to point out that depending on your firm, your contracts, this screen is truly built to be the recreation of your project scope. Whatever your tasks, phases, or work breakdown structure may look like, we want to take those estimates, due dates, and information from that scope, translate that into Bigtime, so that when we're putting the timesheet in your consultant's hands in the fields, they track time to the phase, and then we're able to report on how we're performing against those fee budgets, against those hourly estimates, and keep track of who's working on what and when it's due. Now, with this standard approach, very simple, 1, 2, 3, 4, but I would also add that we can go one level deeper to this subtask or subphase level. So if you do need a bit more of a breakdown on this, maybe we're going to break this out into phases with different subsets underneath, break out those fees and hours at that level, by all means do so. We can provide that additional level of internal reporting and then have the option when it's time to bill the client of keeping it at that level of granularity or rolling it up to that group level as well. And you'll see me do some quick bulk actions here to edit, delete, move around. This is very simple to use, drag and drop. And for those of you that do have standard work breakdown structures for projects, go ahead and create a template for your projects. There's no need to go in every single project and, add the same 5 phases. If those are truly pulled from a skeleton structure that you have, come down here, do a quick copy, and feel free to pull in from another project or from a project template that you would have. Now, when you're looking at this, you'll see my fee budgets are currently 0, and I've only estimated out hours. I want to keep going along those lines of, I know I need a project manager, I know I need a consultant, I know I need them for this many hours, but at this point, don't have too much more future visibility into who that's going to be or quite frankly, who has the ability to do that work. So this is where we want to come in and let Bigtime pick up a bit of that burden in traffic management and future sight. So when I open up our allocations tab, we'll be able to, we'll see a little bit of data. I did a moment of prep before the call on this, but we'll start to get some budget versus actuals here. What I want to do beforehand is edit these allocations. And this will give us a better understanding of this deliverable. Let's pull Carl off of here. And currently looking at this on a monthly level. Common to see folks, using a system or a tool to, get as far as we were before, where we're identifying some budgets. Now what we want to do is bring in any of those other spreadsheets or additional tools you might have that focus on the resource component and directly tie that into your project, your deliverables, your reporting, so that Bigtime as your PSA can now be a central source of all things project, people, and finance related. Now, I'm going to focus on a monthly level here. We'll keep it, a bit of a higher level, which is a great place to start if you're not currently doing this. But just know that project to project, you'll see over here, we can break this down into a weekly allocation level if that's how you're currently doing your traffic planning. Now, we're looking at two approaches to this. You'll see here under design, have scoped out a need for a PM and for a consultant for 40 hours each in April, but I don't know who they're going to be. Develop, deploy, test. I've gone ahead and assigned some resources direct to it, but do want to take a moment to highlight how Bigtime can pick up that work of looking across your resource pool so that if we know we need a PM and we know we need a consultant, come to this view by staff. Now, we'll flip the view on this screen just a little bit, and rather than look at that, phase, hours, we're going to see it by that role. So in this case, I know I need a consultant on design, and I know I need them for 40 hours. Bigtime can make suggestions based off of your assignments and resource availability to see who on my team that is a consultant has the availability to work those hours. When we look across here, looks like Ash has some work on other projects. Jacob doesn't have much going on. Ellen, Cooper, both available. And I know I want Cooper on this. Cooper is my go-to. So I can go ahead and hit that add button and assign Cooper to those 40 hours that had previously just been assigned to a consultant. Now, when this is filled out, whether it's by role or by staff, when we save these changes, we'll be prompted with a few options. So this is a great way to backfill any of the previous screens that you had seen with team assignments, role, hourly budgets, fee budgets. So in this case, let's go ahead and update those fee budgets. We'll take the hourly rate times the forecasted hours, and then down below, start to get some revenue projections based off of these allocated hours. I'll go ahead and do this as a rate times hours, just that standard approach. We can also do this on a fixed fee basis. But now when we hit, let's update those assignments as well. We'll be able to go backwards and see a bit more data populated based off of those hourly assignments. So this screen here, this is a great view for a project manager. Would always point out this is a very singular view of a project. We can take a look at some ways today to maybe take a step up in view from the top down. How are our resources performing against all of these allocations? But this view here is great for a project manager who needs a quick at-a-glance view of how the staff on their projects are performing. So we'll highlight the budget to actual. We haven't tracked any time, well, a couple hours. We haven't tracked much time against this to get a lot of data. But as we start to track time, we'll notice the orange line here will be rising. Just let us know where we stand against what we had projected on this. Back to our editor, a bit more information here. So from those assignments on the allocation editor, I've now updated to assign Cooper to design, Carl and Lee are on develop, and then by updating those fee budgets, have backfilled our budget information from tracking. So whether that's by staffer, by role, the idea is just getting that ability to look ahead based on need, know who has the availability to work, plug that in, and then retroactively set our fee budgets and estimates for all of our tracking and performance. Before we go on, everybody loves a Gantt chart. So would quickly hit on our schedule function here in Bigtime, give you that quick view of the visual of the delivery of this project, and then big proponent of coming down here, creating a baseline on any projects so that if, inevitably a project does get delayed for some reason or another, we're able to come in, do a quick comparison, and just track how we're currently performing on these projects against how we had originally scoped. And before going to track time against it, would take a quick pause to reiterate that this task or phase editor is the foundation for most everything we're doing moving forward in Bigtime. by setting this, we have shaped our timesheet. We've controlled visibility that we have for our staff. Through those user rights, can even put in place settings so that if you're not assigned a task or a phase on a project, you don't see that on your timesheet. We find that the most successful firms tracking time are the ones who are removing the opportunity for staff to create error. So by making those assignments, we can limit that visibility a little bit, simplify the timesheet for the staff, and let them easily hop on and track their time and expenses. We've also set the baseline for all of our reports, and towards the end of the call, we'll circle back on some great reports for PMs to keep track of budgets. So now that the admin setup of this work is done, I want to quickly go through time tracking in Bigtime. We find again that the easiest way to, or I should say, it's hard to get staff to a timesheet, no matter what the firm is. And then to track and efficiently is enough. Again, it's going to be about providing options to the staff and about removing any opportunity for error for them. So when we come in to add a timesheet row, we'll default to a weekly view. We do provide a daily view as well, if anyone on the team prefers, and then also the ability to run timers. Myself, I'm a weekly kind of guy. I like to come in, add my timesheet row, be able to see a drop down of all, in this case as the admin, all of my customers and jobs. But perhaps you want to limit this view to your staff and only show them the projects that they're assigned to. I'm able to select the project. My phase dropdown is going to be represented by what we had built out in that editor. I can select my phase. Again, the option to make phase assignments so that if I'm only working on design, I don't have the option to track against develop, test, or deploy. I'm working on design. We'll do, oh, it's not Friday yet. We'll do, let's do 1.5 hours. Get those notes in and hit save. These rows will stay here week to week. We don't need your staff to recreate their timesheet week in and week out. When next week rolls around, these will be here. When Friday comes around, we can simply hop in there, type our notes, hit save, and then submit those. Do you want to enforce good habits? Typical to see a weekly timesheet submission, but getting the staff to come in and hand that timesheet over to their project manager, your admin, whoever that may be on your side. But what this does is pulls it from the staffer's hands. And when I refresh, we'll notice that those time entries have a lock icon next to them. So we want to make sure that not only do we pass this out for review and approval, but we're taking away the ability from the staff to continue to make changes or edits to this. If you're not going to use review and approval, this is great to make sure that by the time we get to managing that WIP and generating an invoice, we're not going to have any time that would be shifted or edited before it goes on the invoice. In this case, we're locking it in, sending it to the PM and saying, hey, my timesheet for the week is ready to go. Give it your stamp of approval, and let's get that off to finance, get that invoice out, and get the cash in. So when we enter that approval workflow, we're going to be able to bend and adapt and match whatever the current workflow may be for the firm, or can work directly with our success and implementation team or myself to help you develop what we know is best practice in this review and approval process if it is new to you. So time, expenses, and invoices can all follow an approval workflow. These are all custom. They follow their own workflow and can have multiple layers depending on what the workflow current or desired would be for your firm. In this case, I don't want to have it go direct to a finance or admin. I want to give it to that PM and give them a little bit more authority to oversee this project and give it their approval before it goes to my finance team. So I'll hit save on this. You may also notice that in my account, I have a ton of hours that are unapproved. I am admittedly not the best at approving time and hop on and track a lot of fake time in my day-to-day as well. But whenever we go here, your PMs are going to get that notification that they have time pending approval. They can log into their Bigtime account. They'll see this broken out by their projects. So here, I'm overseeing this Bigtime March 2020 webinar. We'll group it by timesheet submission period, bulk approve and reject, but then the ability for your PM or admin or primary approver to open up these hours, give it a quick review. On these screens in Bigtime, you may notice the gear icon here. These will let you customize the displays, pick and choose what fields you want to show in, and then any grouping you need is done by just clicking on the column or the cell at the top. So within my project, I want to go ahead and break this out by staff member. Before the call had tracked as Carl and Cooper, and you had just seen me track as myself. But now I have the ability to come in and say, all right, well, everything looks all right. I don't know if I love these notes here that Ty put in. So depending on your user rights and access levels, can give your PM the ability to make changes or edits on this. We could restrict that depending on what you need. Having some trouble clicking. There we go. So I can edit on behalf if I need to. Or if you don't want your PM making those edits and adjustments, go ahead and have them reject this time entry. No need to reject the whole timesheet that was submitted. We can reject that single entry. We can provide some notes as to what they need to do. That will reopen the time entry on the staffer's timesheet. It'll trigger them with a notification that says, hey, one of your time entries has been rejected. And when they see that on the timesheet, it is a bold red color, and it lets them know right below what those rejection notes are and what they need to do before they can successfully submit that to be approved. But in this case, if everything looks good, we can come in and bulk approve. Now, once we've entered time, we've entered expenses, they've made it through that review and approval process, wherever that approval may be happening, depending on everyone's shift in offices and workplaces as of late. We want to make sure that it's easy for our finance team to manage that, get it onto an invoice, and again, get that invoice out to the client. So when we come to our invoicing overview, we'll be greeted with three different. Now, on the left, you'll see our unbilled work in progress. In the middle, drafted and final invoices. And finally, on the right, AR aging. Where we're going to focus to start is on that unbilled WIP. Anything that has been entered and submitted is going to show here, so that you're able to easily keep track of all the billable time that needs to go out to be invoiced. And opening this up, we'll see everything in the firm that is waiting to be billed. Again, with the groupings here, preference is to, on my end, group by client, just so we can keep track, especially if we have multiple ongoing projects per client. But you'll have that ability to customize and edit, as well as apply some advanced filters. So these are great for the finance team, especially bringing in that review and approval process to say, hey, on that display, only show me what's been approved by my PMs. That one extra step earlier on in the process is the easiest way to solve for a later stage problem of finance creating that invoice and then getting the notification that time has been updated or that someone forgot to submit time. But it's a great way to solve a problem is to put that one extra step in place earlier on to prevent it from happening. So now finance can come in, they're confident that everything they see on this screen has been approved by a PM. It should in fact be invoiced. Maybe if you're invoicing monthly, we come in and apply some filters here to only show approved time and expenses for the month of March. Or we can clear all our filters and keep it as is, do a quick search. And we'll see here for Bigtime software, a couple billable projects, but right now I want to pick up this March 2020 webinar, be able to open up any expenses, any fees, the total amount, and also want to provide finance an opportunity to do some initial review on this as well. So similar to how our PM had the ability in that review and approval process to, see the details of everything going on, your finance team can have that same option of coming in, seeing the time entries, the date, the notes, just to make sure that, again, before they pick this up to put on an invoice, this is everything that needs to go on it. Let's pick all of this whip up, go ahead and create an invoice. And then in Bigtime, we'll be presenting a couple options at this point. The first one's going to be, how do you want to subtotal this? I'm defaulting to an activity and rate. That's not quite what we want. Let's go ahead and do this by phase. So in this project, that we have time tracked from 3 people for a total billable amount. I'm sorry, this is a T&M invoice as well. Maybe if we get out of here, I should take it back a quick step. Let's pick up that whip, create the invoice, and then I'll let you choose what style of invoice to do. Again, with the options here, we can do T&M, we can do fixed fee, milestone, deposit. You'll see here something that says item-based billing. For those of you that have fixed amounts on phases, typical in architecture and sometimes IT consulting and services, to see fixed amounts or milestone billing on a set of phases, but then we want to throw in that single phase where we're tracking and billing just by T&M for additional services. We can cover that as well. So would always want to mention that when working with your invoice style, it's all about being able to customize to your needs. And that's what our success and implementation was here to help with. On today's call, let's take this through and maybe we'll do a fixed fee, show how we can pass along budget status, keep that detail on. There are a lot of opportunities here for customization. If there's something that you think that you need, but you're not seeing me do, please reach out to Al, who's asking or answering questions right now. Reach out to anyone else on our team, and we can provide a more specific demonstration of how we can meet those needs for you. So we'll do this as fixed fee. Now on this screen, I don't need to choose how I'm subtotaling. Bigtime's going to know, that I've already set these tasks and phases and these budgets. And we can come in, whether that's percent complete or milestone. One thing that I find very advantageous and have helped a lot of firms get in the habit of using is showing what we've input directly against that project budget. So if we do need to come in and, maybe we just want to bill for that $2,500, that's 19% of this. Perfect. We can work that direction. Or if we're going to go ahead and bill 50% of design, maybe 25% of development, and nothing on deploy and test, we'll leave that up to you depending on your style. Now, in this case, I do want to clear the WIP, though I'm billing this percent complete, still picking up all that submitted and approved time and expenses to clear that, provide accurate reporting. But when it comes time to invoice the client, maybe I don't need to show any of that detail. So when we go to finalize, this screen is going to be the final chance for your finance team to do a review on this before it hits the accounting solution and before it goes out to the client. So we've subtotaled our line items. We have one last chance to review, update, and pick up any time and expenses at this point. And then we want to go ahead and get those 2 paths out of Bigtime. The first is email to the client. The second is post to our accounting solution. Before we email this out, we'll work with you to help develop custom templates. You don't need our development team to build these templates. I'm sure everyone has created a template, whether that's in your accounting, in Excel, or in a Word doc. The ability to come in, customize a template, create from scratch, and make it a really easy 1, 2, 3 process on what we need to do. So let's use this demo template. We'll make a quick edit here. The first step in customizing a template is giving that template a name. Secondly, I want you to be able to choose what to show at the top and the bottom of that. Your logo, what fields, terms, fonts, colors, footers. And then down below, the step 3 This is all the detail that we can pick and choose when we want to customize what we're showing to the client. So this will give us a summary page. Maybe we don't need that. The ability to pick up any unpaid AR is great. If someone does have an unpaid invoice that's currently out, being able to bring that to their attention and let them know what they currently owe and add that to the new invoice that goes out. I want to pick up budget status on this. If we're billing progress or milestone, let's go ahead and pick up that overall budget, remaining, any previous bills, and anything we're currently billed. Hiding unbilled, hiding tasks that are complete, and then time and expense is where we can pick up all that detail. Now, in this case, I've input less time than I'm billing based on that fixed amount that we agreed upon. But for demonstrative purposes, let's go ahead and just pick up that staff name, date, notes, hours, rate, and amount. And then let's go ahead and subtotal that let's do that by our phase. And we hit save. Now these two line items, when they go out to that template, we're able to provide a custom template we can view as a PDF here, or we can even just go to our quick preview and take a look at it inside Bigtime as well. So here, able to pass along the budget status and then have all that detail down below that we can display. Again, no client, unfortunately, needs like the same invoice, or not all clients need the same invoice. We are prepared to do a wide array of invoicing, a wide array of customization, and our teams are ready to work with you to help identify what you need for each of your clients, whether that is budget status, detail, attaching documents and reports when they go out, or even picking up any of your expenses with those receipt images that we've uploaded into Bigtime as well. From here, we can go ahead and post this over to QuickBooks. In this case, it's a QuickBooks desktop account. So we'll go ahead and post, and then we'll either need that sync agent to run in the background, or we can go ahead and do that manually. And if you see me looking off screen here, trying to send Trilby a quick message to go ahead and run that update so we can pull in some of this AR. We may get that done in just a moment. And outside of that, our invoicing overview, we can start to get that visibility pushed back into our Bigtime account through our AR aging bucket, or even through some of our reports in Bigtime as well. And as we segue into reports, would want to come to the report center. In Bigtime, our approach is let's provide you a few pre-built reports and then allow you to use those as a base or a guideline to create and customize. So whether you're going to be choosing from a pre-built report in time tracking, invoicing, payroll, or those tasks or phases, great. We create, we customize, we store in here. This phase list by project total budget status is a great pre-built report that's going to pull in each of our projects. And in this case, I'm going to run it on everything in the firm. We'll let you pick and choose how this is displayed, only show PMs their projects. But in this case, we'll run it for everything. We'll keep an eye on those estimate input, what's remaining, and then be able to track invoiced amounts and what's left to be invoiced by each of these phases as well. This is a great report. A go-to of mine for a great PM report is to create a copy of this. Come in, and maybe we're not at this point concerned with the invoiced amounts. Let's go ahead and get rid of those. But the estimate, the input fees, input expenses, we'll simplify that as well. And then what's remaining? And then let's pick up those hours. We took the time to scope those out, so let's bring in that hourly burn. Do a quick search here. All of the reporting in Bigtime is able to be searched with a quick filter or a scroll list here, but we want to pick up that hourly estimate. We want to pick up the input hours input. Then we want to pick up the hours remaining. Estimate minus input. So now we've taken a pre-built report, done a quick edit on it, and now we're bringing in both the fee and hour budget on our projects. Estimate input remaining on the hours as well, roll up to the project to the client. Now, when sharing reports, we'll use this My Report folder. This is how you're going to take these reports, tie in those user rights and permission settings, and give those PMs the quick access that they need to easily view a report on their projects, whether that's that fee and hour budget status that we're sharing with PMs and admins, forecast report that I've shared with only admins in my account as well, able to tie in that visibility, and ultimately land on things like a cost and profit report, where we're bringing in, tying all the way back to what we said at the top of the call about segmenting out what's profitable, what should we bid for, and how do our current bids, align with the profit margins, using Bigtime as a single entry point for all of that data. Now, while this is very project-driven, we'll end today's reporting on our utilization dashboard, which is that overhead view of staff to be able to track how we're performing against those allocations. So this screen is going to let us go ahead and view our staff, maybe group everyone together by department, but be able to choose a time frame, by month, by week, look at our staff, see that David here, poor David, has the capacity to work 132 hours, but we've allocated 220 to him. He is far overutilized. Ellen here is all right, but needs work. Jacob could use a project or two. And then drill down into that so that of these 40 hours, where are they assigned? Being able to drop that down. There we go. Jacob's got 40 on our engineering project right here. And then from these, go right back to the projects, pivot and adjust as needed. But this dashboard is a great way to pick up the burden of those spreadsheets that are typically doing this calculation, or any outside forecasting tool, bring it into your PSA solution, let you easily track everyone's allocated utilization, their input utilization, and billable utilization as well. So I know we're coming up on about 13 minutes left on the hour here. That was a lot of Bigtime for everyone. So at this point, going to go ahead and flip this back over to Trilby. Let me pull up my Q&A slide, but would be happy to field any of those questions that anyone certainly had as I was going through all of that, and make sure we're getting those answered. So Trilby, back over to you.
Great, thanks, Ty. It's a great demo. So we do have a couple packed hour over here. We had a couple of good questions for the group though, so I'll shoot those your way now. So Mackenzie asked, what is Bigtime's reliability for high volume times like we're experiencing now with everyone working remote?
Yeah, that's a great and certainly relevant question that's come up, not just today, but in another call this morning and in a call earlier this week as well. Very proud of our uptime. Quick shout out to Bigtime IT, but we currently operate with 5 nines, 99.999% uptime. The way that we operate, we're hosted on Amazon Web Services, who, they're going to take care of a lot of that security, uptime, and reliability. Great internal practices to keep that up. But it's a huge benefit of a cloud-based system like Bigtime is that we will maintain and guarantee, that uptime and reliability. And there's no need to have anything that lives there on a server, with your firm that might cause alarm. So we'll take care of the hard work and uptime and operating with 99 and up uptime currently.
That's great. Next up, we have Rob asked if you could talk a little bit more to our new consolidating invoice feature that we just released.
Yeah, and maybe even piggyback off of the uptime question there as well, and talk about how we approach releases with Bigtime. Our development team works in 3-week sprints, and we go for one epic or major release per quarter. So we just saw our Q1 release on Tuesday of this week. Tuesday? Yeah, Tuesday. That's where that consolidated invoicing came from, which is most likely prompting this question. When we push releases, we always make sure to do it at an opportune time so that it never affects Bigtime uptime and reliability. Consolidated invoicing is great, especially if you are needing to take multiple projects for a client. But when you invoice them, put it on a single invoice. It is can be a cumbersome process without a tool like Bigtime to still be able to track performance at that project level. But from the financial standpoint, just give the client that higher level invoice that they need. So consolidated invoicing is just that. It's multiple projects per client, and then the ability to track at that level, report at that level, and when you invoice, roll up to a single invoice for the client for multiple projects.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a big one. I'm excited about it. Next here we have Sarah asked, how long does it take to get the software off the ground and working after purchase?
Yeah, you've heard me call out to our support, our success and implementation team. Shout out to support as well. We were named most implementable this year by G2, which is a huge accomplishment for our team. A lot of PSA systems, you'll see an uptime or implementation time of 3 months to 6 months, depending on what you need. We're currently averaging 1.1 months. And it's very common to see a 2-week launch rather than the 4 to 6. You know, it's dependent on quite a few factors, but 9 times out of 10, if you have started your Bigtime subscription and you're not up and running within a month, we want to give you a call to see what's up. We'll take a phased rollout to all of this as well. So your goals on day one are to get in, set your bill rates, your cost rates, learn how to set up projects and get your staff tracking time, and then working with you towards that end goal of whatever those invoicing or reporting needs may be. But a one-on-one process to launch and average go live 1.1 months.
That's great. All right, I think last question we have for today before we wrap up. This person asked or said, we don't use QuickBooks. What other options do you provide for AR management?
Got it. You saw me today go through QuickBooks, QuickBooks Desktop, QuickBooks Online. Of course, if you are not connected to QuickBooks, that QuickBooks tab and information is just simply not visible in your account. You can check out our direct integrations. We just launched a Sage Intacct integration. We always operate with the best of breed integration. So CRM, we're going to be Salesforce. Accounting, we're going to be QuickBooks. We're going to be Sage Intacct. But would also say that going back to that AR reporting you saw in Bigtime, it's very possible, audio again, common to see these finances within Bigtime. Your payment information can be recorded in our system. We can track all of that, and then we'll offer out-of-the-box integrations with QuickBooks Desktop, QuickBooks Online, and Sage Intacct.
Great. Well, thanks, Ty. I think that's all the time we have for questions, but before we let all of you guys go, we just wanted to follow up on a couple things. So if you enjoyed what you saw today and are ready to get your hands on the tool and try it out for yourself, we do offer a free trial if you're interested in signing up for that. We're also going to offer just one-on-one consultations if you'd rather speak to a member of our team and get a little bit more specific on how Bigtime would look specifically for your firm or your industry, and any other questions that you might have thought of after the call or just didn't have time to get to today. So we are going to be offering both of those. And for any of our clients who did join the call, we have just launched a Refer a Friend program. So if you have a different firm in mind that you think would benefit from using Bigtime and you want to refer them to us, there's a benefit for you as well and a little prize with that. So just to get your feel, I will launch a poll now about if you're interested in doing our free trial with us. And if you hit yes here, we'll follow up with you to get you set up in your account and make sure you're ready to go on that. So we'll give you a couple seconds to answer this. And if you missed the poll, don't worry.
Shelby, maybe while we're waiting on that feedback, over on the right-hand side, quick to point out some of these awards from G2 Crowd that I had mentioned earlier. Had talked about the implementation time, but the ease of admin, you'll see fastest implementation down there on the bottom right. But easy setup, easy implementation, momentum leaders. G2 is a great source for this because it is, while very thankful to have you on our great marketing team here at Bigtime, G2 is working from verified reviews from users without our marketing team touching this. So happy to share your content, my experience, but know that these verified reviews from G2 Crowd really do go a long way, and very proud of where we've come as a company to move up that leaderboard and continue to be able to share these awards and accolades that we've gotten from our customers. And then now shout out to support, who's been great at getting reviews posted as well. We're at 750, almost 800 positive reviews across all of our websites. Huge accomplishment, and I think it really speaks to everyone involved at Bigtime, from all departments, from where they're starting with marketing all the way through a successfully launched and managed account.
Yeah, that's great. I really urge you guys to check those out, because like Ty said, it's always better to hear it from someone who's actually using the tool rather than just our opinion. And before we go, just one more thing. I will be sending out a recording of this webinar, so you can watch back, reference anything, or share with any of your other team members. I will most likely get that out to all of you tomorrow. So thank you guys so much for joining us. I hope you have a good rest of your day. Stay healthy and safe. And again, thanks for spending your time with us.
Well, thank you, everyone. Much appreciated.
Bye, everyone.